I'm interviewing women that I admire, respect, and I know that we can learn from. My role is to bring out their best practices, their routines, their habits, their thought processes, so that you and I can apply what we learn to improve our lives. We're also going to travel back in time to look at where they came from. How did they attain their skills? What were the thoughts back then? What would they give their younger self? So join me. We're talking to Marilyn Sherman from Las Vegas. She's a front row leadership expert. We're to look at what does that mean and where did that come from. Now Marilyn, she always has people around her, is always attracting people with her charisma. But it wasn't always that easy for her. We're to look at her upbringing, and she was called Moose and how she dealt with that. And also, how did she find her calling? And how is it all tied together from her youth to now? We're to look at her life from suicide counselor to motivational speaker.
Marilyn Sherman.
Yes.
So front row leadership girl here.
Yes.
Were you short as a kid?
No, no.
Where did that, because you're tall.
No, I was big. I was big. I was bigger than all the girls in my class. I was bigger than all the boys in my class, and my nickname was Moose.
Oh.
And I had this complex that I wasn't good enough because kids made fun of me. And there was you know how there's like defining moments of our life?
Yeah.
My defining moment was when I was 13 and one of the cute guys invited me to go make out with him behind the school.
What's that invitation look like? Like I guess I haven't experienced that.
Well, I was 13.
I mean, sound like. I don't need to.
Yeah. It was more like, I was like, oh my God, he's asking me, not all my cute little girlfriends, he's asking me. And then he said, but there's a catch. I want you to meet me there at midnight. And I'm thinking, I'm 13 years old. You want me to sneak out of my house in the middle of the night just to go make out with you? And yes. So I did, and I felt like I was one of the cool kids until after 5 minutes, we were done, and he said, don't tell anybody. And in that moment, I had such a feeling of unworthiness. And like that was my first balcony seat, because life is a venue. Life is one big venue. You're either in the balcony, general admission, or front row. And when you're in the balcony, it doesn't feel good. It's as if you don't exist. It's like you could leave and come back and no one would notice because all the action is down in front.
Yeah.
So I vowed that I would help women, especially women, never feel like that again. That they deserve a front row seat in their life, and they deserve to have front row relationships and front row jobs and front row moments that they can create.
All right, I'm trying to be back with you when you were 13.
Yeah.
So what kind of thoughts, because that's adult speak, but what were you thinking at 13?
I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. I was crushed, like I wasn't worthy.
And how did you move forward from that?
Well, I've had several failed relationships. That's how I move forward.
But when you were 13?
Well, no.
I'm very interested, obviously, with this 13 piece and how you got a little bit further to get out of the moose thing.
Because I ended up becoming a leader, but I became a leader in a different way. I became a leader in a way that I was very empathic with people who were lonely and the outcasts. And then I became a successful athlete, and I blended with all the groups in my schools. Now, I was still bigger than everybody, but I had more of a, I'm going to prove people wrong. I can be big, but still be a really good, caring, loving person. So it ended up that I still never dated in high school, but I ended up winning most inspirational student. So there became a calling to do what I do today, to help people, empower people, to feel good about themselves, and not rely so much on external validation of other people.
And this ties into that. What are 3 qualities, personality traits, do you think helped you get there?
Persistence. Because I knew that you just have to keep trying and trying and trying and trying, and you just keep knocking on doors and knocking on doors and knocking on doors to do what you want, whatever that is for you, whatever your front row is for you. You just keep being persistent, because there will be failures. You learn from them, you dust yourself off, and you keep going. Another one is belief, like having a faith and belief that things are going to be okay, things will work out. And when you have that faith and belief, you're more willing to take risks. You're more willing to You know how sometimes we fall into that, oh my gosh, everything's going wrong. Because if it hasn't happened yet, there will be a time in your life where you will think, oh my gosh, everything is happening all at once. But at your core, if you believe that you will get through this and everything will be all right, it will help you compartmentalize these different areas and not think everything is done and over. You know what I mean by that? And that comes from, I grew up in Seattle, and I was a crisis counselor in Seattle. So I was a suicide prevention counselor.
I did not know that.
Same place that Ted Bundy worked at, by the way. Blast from the past.
Yeah.
So I was that kind of a person. I was helping people. So like now as a professional speaker, I like to say I used to help people have the courage to live, but now I help people to live with courage. So persistence, faith, and sort of like I think another trait that I aspire to be is someone who's got a constant curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know more about you. I want to know about your life. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know what's here. I want to learn. Like my audiences, I want to know who you are. I want to know why you're here. I want to know what you want to get out of this event. Or, you know, my husband's from France. It's like, I want to know more about France, and I want to, you know, learn about you, where you grew up. You know, so when you have this constant sense of curiosity, you will always be learning and always be growing. I don't ever want to think that I've made it because, you know, there's that old saying, when you're green, you're grown, when you're ripe, you rot. I don't want to be ripe. I don't want to be ripe. I don't want to say, okay, I've arrived. I want to constantly be growing and learning and evolving.
In terms of front row leadership, when did you, before it became a speech and all of that, when did you start doing the front row and taking it and making sure that you get the front row?
Well,
and
that's
take
very
initiative.
That's very interesting because I come from very visionary parents. And my father, they had 8 kids in 10 years, so they had a lot of kids, big family, right? I'm the baby. Before our junior and senior year of high school, my parents took one of us somewhere in the world that showed us other cultures and how other cultures lived, so that when we came back for our senior year of high school, we would really appreciate the land of the free, the home of the brave, education. Take your education seriously, get into a good college, and go out and be a good person and make a difference in the world. I mean, that's pretty cool as a, you know, as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old.
Yes.
My mom took me to the Orient, and she took me to Taiwan, she took me to Korea, she took me to Hong Kong and Japan. And she wanted to show me the best of the best and the worst of the worst, because she wanted to show me, you know, because my mother was this visionary, and that's what she did she took people on private tours to the Orient. And she loved the Orient, and her favorite was Japan. So she showed me all these places.
My people.
Don arigato. So she wanted to teach me that I have it so good in America.
Yes.
So there were places, I remember, like it was yesterday, she was taking me through a place in Korea, not the best part of town, and I just looked around and I thought, oh my gosh, my quarter horse back home lives in better conditions than some of these people live in. And that really gave me this appreciation for life and for what we have, and not to take for granted things that we have. And one of those things is opportunity. So when I came back, I always sat in the front row in school. And I remember, because I was like hungry and I wanted to learn and I wanted, you know, and I remember one time I was the only one in the front row, and then all the kids and all the cool kids were in the back, and I felt alone, you know, but I always thought, you know, this is good. And then one of the kids said, Marilyn, come on back with us. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I did. And then the teacher came in and said, would you guys please move back up to the front? And then I was like, oh, then I went back up to the front. So then I just felt very comfortable, you know, being in the front row.
Yeah. So the idea of front row leadership, you always sat in the front row. How did you take that and translate into your business now?
Well, what's really interesting is that I've been speaking professionally for 21 years. So it's been a business that's grown. And I started out with a topic called Whose Comfort Zone Are You In? Which was helping people get out of their comfort zone without jumping into someone else's. So it was all about visioning and goal setting, and my clients hired me so much, and they said, well, we've already hired you for that. We need to hire you for something else. And so I really became really reflective on, well, what do I truly believe in? And someone said, well, you're always sitting in the front row. Why don't you do something around that? And I said, that's right. So then I came up with front row living, front row, how to live life in the front row. And then I wrote a book, Why Settle for the Balcony, how to get a front row seat in life. And then Nee and James helped me come up with this model that makes more sense for my corporate clients. So what it is, it's we are where we are in life, right here, right now, wherever we are, because of the choices we've made up until today. And it takes courage to look at where we are versus where we want to be. What would be our ideal front row? And then you make a commitment. Okay, this is what I need to do to move myself closer to the front row. And when you engage in this process, you will start to exceed your past performance, you exceed expectations, and then it puts you in a better position to become an usher to help others to their front row.
Look at that extended metaphor carried all the way
Exactly.
out.
So call me your head usher, because
Yes.
I want to usher people to the front row, and when they're in the front row, they're in a better position to usher others, and that's what I call front row leadership. So that's my, people get it. They get it, and they love it, and I love it.
And who's hiring you, and for what budget do you come out of?
HR hires me, sales managers hire me, and association directors hire me. Recently, multi-level marketing, direct sales, they love me. And I just yesterday, I motivated 400 of the top leaders in a multi-level marketing company, and I just showed them that you are ushers helping others build their teams, and but you need to live in the front row first, so identify what that is for you. So
What do you wish you would have known before you got into this industry?
what I would have known is the things that don't serve me quicker, like being jealous of other people who are further along than me, that does not serve me. Being envious of people who are in positions that I wanted to be in doesn't serve me. So I wish I would have known earlier that yes, those feelings exist and it's okay, but let those go. Surround yourself with the supportive, loving people you know you have in your life, and then be open to approach the people that have what you want and say, oh my gosh, congratulations, you rock.
Yes, yes.
And what advice do you have for someone like me who one day wants to be like you?
Exactly, that is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
Exactly. In terms of curiosity, we're both curious beings.
Yeah.
How do you keep focus when there's all this stimulation? Oh, this is a great idea. Oh, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
And how do you reprioritize? How do you manage all of that?
Yeah, I live in Vegas, so there's a lot of shiny objects that, so there's constant distraction. So how do I manage that? Not very well. Not very well. I mean, we're here at a convention and I'll be like, there's people I want to see and there's things I want to go to, but why am I really here? I'm here to grow my business, to make a difference for the people that hire me. So I need to, probably the way I manage things better is to look more closely at the doable items that I need to do and finish those instead of the big picture of this is my vision, this is what I want. I need to be more intentional on the smaller things and finish those. Because if you're like me, you will have so many great ideas and then you leave and feel so overwhelmed, you won't implement any of them. But once you do, man, once you implement, you start to get, like I did that. Like I saw a speaker 2 weeks ago who had a new way of doing his PowerPoint in keynote. And I'm like, oh, I so have to do that. So I created my own, not duplicating him or emulating him, but taking his idea and making it my own. And it upped my game so much. It was like, and that was just 2 weeks ago. So I'm very impressed that I, took the idea, implemented it, worked hard on it, and then customized my presentation. And so I'm at a new level now.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
In terms of support, how do you get support from others and feedback? You're working on a new book, a new project, your manual.
Well, I'm very grateful because I have an agency that represents me. So I have her, Sarah, she's amazing. So she handles all my inquiries, she handles all my contracting, all my negotiating. I don't have to do any of that. So that part, I've made a decision to remove that from my responsibility so that I'm free to be creative.
Yes.
And put more effort into my manual and my coaching and my new book. I mean, I have the freedom to do that, and so I have that kind of support. I don't have a assistant, but anything she can do to take off my plate administrative-wise, I let her do it. So that frees me up. And I think I probably waited too long to do that. But then again, I wasn't at a position where an agency wanted to represent me. You know, it's not like they were all knocking on my door saying, you know, come join our team. So everything is, you know, synchronicity. You know, things happen at the right pace at the right time, maybe unbeknownst to me. Like I literally hired someone to be my salesperson, and we negotiated a fee, a retainer every month, and then a commission, and she put me off and said, I can't start on this date. Can we do July 1? And I'm like, okay, fine, we can do July 1. And then July 1 rolled around, and she said, I need an August 1. And I was like devastated, because like, oh my gosh, I put all my eggs in her selling basket to sell me. And I was telling everybody, oh, finally I have someone to sell me. Yeah. And then on August 1st, she said, I can't do it. So then I was crushed, because I wasn't prepared to take on that responsibility of having, you know how you have this anticipation, finally someone's going to take something off your plate, and then it comes back to you. And I was crushed and devastated, but then that opened the door for a year later, the agency hired me, or the agency approached me, and we became partners. So now not only do they do my sales function, but they represent me, and they come from a bureau background, so I didn't have to do any training. And so so my point is that sometimes when things happen and you may seem like it's devastating, it could be a huge blessing. And that then goes back to my faith piece, where it's like, have faith that things are going to work out. And I know it sounds trite, but things do happen for a reason. Our job is to figure out what that reason is, or to be relaxed about it, knowing that the reason will be revealed later. Does that make sense?
Well, it's a matter of having faith and just having the courage to just walk on that ledge.
Yes.
I see there's I heard there was going to be something to catch me. I don't see it, but.
Yes. And in our business, there's ups and downs, and I just knew that there was going to be another booking around the corner. I just knew it, and there always was. Now there were some really, tough times, and some really, okay, we need to tighten up our belt. Okay, we don't have much of a belt left, and so that to me also gives me more empathy and more understanding of the people that I touch. Is because I've been there. I've been in the balcony. I've been there. It's no fun. But keep on going, and you will get there.
It sounds like just evaluate. You evaluate everything that's happened, and you're making sure that you have the lesson from every single thing. Mm-hmm. Is that?
Yes, and not to dwell in it. Things happen, but we have to be like a ping pong ball and bounce back. We have to bounce back from adversity. Bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen that are no fault of your own. Unexpected challenges, people die, people leave, people get hurt, businesses fail, contracts get canceled. That's life. And we have to have the courage to realize we are resilient. We have to be resilient. Like Louis Zamperini. Remember Louis Zamperini from the movie Unbroken? I read that book, and he was a World War II hero, and he got shot down on his plane and spent 47 days in a raft with shark-infested waters. And a couple of his partners died, and he survived, and he was rescued, but he was rescued by the enemy. And then the enemy tortured him, and the prison guard, had this thing for him because he was an Olympic athlete, and so he made it his mission to torture him every day. Louis Zamperini not only survived, but he lived to 97 years old, and his message was, it wasn't until I forgave my captors that I really began to live my life. And I'm thinking, if this man can live to 97 years old without any hate in his heart, then who am I to hang on to all this negativity and attachment that we would have to things that happen to us? We need to let go, be resilient, and move forward.
Let's talk about your daily life, because there's a couple things. You're really positive.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
How do you keep positive? And how do you change that attitude? Because there's things that's happened. How do you switch that?
Well, you switch it up by recognizing that happiness 100% is a choice. You choose it or not. And every single day you can choose to be happy or you choose not to be happy. You can choose moment by moment by moment to be happy. And so once you understand that you are 100% accountable for your mindset, then you have no excuse. You can't complain about stuff. You can't dwell in it. I mean, you could, but then you can't complain about being there because you're putting yourself there.
Right.
So once I know I'm accountable for my own happiness, then, well, what does that mean? Because that sounds like, okay, just shift your mindset. Well, what that means is I connect with people because I'm a people person. I love my girlfriends dearly and deeply. So if all I need to do, for example, is call Kelly Swanson and oh my God. I'm just filled with love and light and laughter and happiness because she's always there for me no matter what. So it's really important to nurture your friendships. And don't feel like when things are collapsing around you, don't feel like you're all alone. That's the time you reach out to the people that you know that love you unconditionally. So I have friends that I can call. I have different friends for different reasons. And so I don't want to say I use them or take advantage of them, but I do. I mean, that's what friends are for, is to be there for each other.
Right.
So I make sure I put myself in a position, like I go places, I come to conferences, I engage in conversations, and I build these relationships so that when I really need to reach out, they're there for me because I'm part of their lives. So daily, I try to, because I work at home, my husband works at home, so there's distractions. We do eat breakfast every morning together, and we like to start off our day together. We have some prayer time in the morning, not always, but we always pray before our meals, for example. And I'm very spoiled. He makes me my lunch and my dinner every day. So I'm working, and he'll say, okay, lunch is served, because we are very, well, you've been there.
Well, and super, super loving too, and just like, oh.
Yeah, so and I'll say, go ahead and start without me, and he'll say, no, absolutely not. So, even when he'll make these big, beautiful salads, and he'll say, okay, please help yourself. And I said, no, you go first. And he says, never. So he's always like making sure I'm served first. I think that's the French way, but. So yes, so it helps to have my own French baron at home who treats me with such grace.
Where can I find?
Yeah.
Okay, good. See how? Go ahead. So you start together, and that's lovely. And with a good meal, I know you eat healthy.
Yeah, I try to.
What would you tell your 25-year-old self now? What advice?
Well, looking back on my life, I've made some really poor choices, and I made poor choices because of insecurity. So if I were to look back at my 25-year-old self, I would say, Marilyn, you really are good enough. You do not have to marry that guy that you married just because he asked you. And you had nothing to prove. Like, my dad thought I was trying to save the world one loser at a time. I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. If I were to stay steadfast and be okay with being alone, and wait for, my current husband, who is amazing, right? I would have told my 25-year-old self, relax. You're good enough. You don't have to prove yourself. Just do your thing, and you are very good at what you do.
Hey, and I'm listening to you, and I will wait also. I will wait for him, Marilyn.
Yeah, you don't have to settle. You do not have to settle for balcony relationships, because the front row is where it's at. And here's what I did. Once I was single for 7 years, and then I made a list. I made a list of everything I wanted in a man, because Moose needs a man, and she wants a good one, right?
Yeah.
So I came up with a list of 356 traits, and in the top 10...
she beats me. 356.
Well, I just kept going on and on and on. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Okay, what does that look like? So it's like offshoots and offshoots.
Right.
And then I narrowed it down to the top 10, and in the top 10, he had to speak fluent French. Why not? Really, it was like a
And
why
she
not?
found him.
Well, that's the thing.
Or he found her, yeah.
Well, no, I found him, and
Yeah.
and so the more specific you
Yes.
are, you know,
Yeah.
and then make sure you have your deal breakers, and you know what your deal breakers are.
I know, they're
And
written
so,
down
And
and-
so why do we sometimes go
Settle,
off track
yeah,
and compromise? And
Because we
don't
lose
have-
confidence and
we
patience.
lose
yeah.
confidence and patience, right?
Yeah.
So I would tell my 25-year-old self, be confident and be courageous, and it's great. It's great.
I love doing these interviews because it's like you're talking to me and I'm
Oh,
hearing
good.
you and I
Oh,
will
good.
implement.
Good.
Thinking about your bucket list, what's
Yeah.
something you would like to accomplish pretty soon?
Pretty soon.
Or do?
Well, I love what I do so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really love what I do so much. And the people that come up to me, especially the women, like yesterday, I had 4 women say to me, "You changed my life." And I had one person say, "You changed my business," which is very cool because it was a business,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
event. But my bucket list is to do that in, you know, a crowd of like 7,000 women. That's my bucket list. Is like I want to be on the big stage, because if I can empower that many people
Yeah.
in a small room, I know I can, and then to have, like, let's say 7,000 women moving closer to their front row,
Yeah.
and then suddenly they're ushers to help,
The others, right?
you know, and
Exactly.
so on and so on. I mean, we really could change the world.
Yeah.
So my bucket list is to be on big stages, big events, and to just
Big
rock
impact.
it and have big impact
Yeah.
on others. Because it's really not about me. It's about how many people I can serve, and
Yeah.
then how many people they can serve, and that's my bucket list.
Thank you, Marilyn. And where can we find you?
MarilynSherman.com. It's pretty easy. BeInTheFrontRow.com. And I've got some great stuff there. I've got some daily avenues that I've partnered with Avenue. It's daily motivational, short little videos with my voice, and so people can be motivated that way every day. Or
Quickly.
my books.
That could be part of your routine. I mean, so each morning.
Yes.
You could listen.
Yes, part of your daily meditation. People say it's my morning motivation with Marilyn. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Mondays, even. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.